Now on Driven. Porsche, there is no substitute. Not just a tagline, a credo for these believers from Alan Johnson, whose success racing Porsches led him to Daytona and Le Mans, to CPR, California's classic restoration, where the classics are brought back to life, to the 911 GT3, a car that can make a driver out of anyone. Woo! So buckle up. Driven is straight ahead. Spectacular San Diego, where Californians dream. But I'm here to meet a man who turned his dreams into achievements. Alan Johnson is an author, mentor, successful businessman, and a Porsche racer with 4 SCCA National Championships to his credit. He has wins in Sebring and raced at Daytona and Le Mans. And he wanted to meet at the San Diego Air and Space Museum. Mr. Alan Johnson, it is an honor to meet you,
Tom,
sir.
welcome to the Air and Space Museum.
Why did you decide to have us meet here?
I'm on the board of directors here at the Air and Space Museum, and it's a great place.
Looks like it has quite a few stories to tell here.
Absolutely.
And I hear you have quite a few stories to tell us.
I have a few stories.
His story is about setting objectives and reaching goals.
Does that look fast?
That looks fast. That looks fast. My goal was simply to keep up with this man whose passion for life and loves like this museum is contagious.
You know, the Spirit of St. Louis was built in San Diego.
I did not know that.
And actually, Lindbergh came out and helped with it before he took it and flew it east.
When you look at what that guy did, I'm thinking about you driving 24 hours.
Not even close. Not even close.
Still a pretty nice accomplishment.
It was, and we're very proud of our accomplishment. Sebring in 12 hours, 2 years in a row, and then Daytona in 69 with Burt Everett from the East Coast, and then we went to Le Mans in 71. Unfortunately, at Le Mans, my partner woke me up, and the story on that is, obviously the car's not going around anymore, so we had an engine problem. But
not the 33 hours that Lindbergh did.
Exactly. It's not even close.
It is amazing because he's so humble.
Chris Stavros is a successful businessman in his own right. He also cares for the mementos of his friend and mentor's racing career.
But it's not until you actually see the pictures and feel the experience through his stories that you really understand more about who he is and what he's done in life and racing. He's achieved a lot.
Alan, what do you think of when you start looking at these old pictures?
The excitement of sports car racing. I loved it so much and had so many good times that it brings back a little bit of the emotion, especially at the start of a race.
Alan's love of cars started at an early age with hot rods.
Well, my first inkling with what I liked about cars was the way they accelerated, the power, and that's what we got with hot rods. And when my friend Jerry Sperry gave me a ride in his 57 Speedster and slid the car sideways through the corners and everything, I mean, it was really exciting, and I decided I have to have one of these. So I set an objective to do that, and I did.
His next goal was to race Porsches, and with determination, he overachieved.
You know, I was hoping just to be able to get out there and finish the race, and I ended up third, and I got a little trophy, and I was thrilled. That was my very first race.
In 1964, at 29 years old, there were new goals.
My partner at the time, Roger Bursch, and I decided we were going to try to qualify for the national championship, and we ended up doing exceptionally well. I led every lap, won the race, and I won the national championship.
This you taking the checkered flag?
That's me taking the checkered flag.
His achievements would grow and soon became one of the most successful American Porsche drivers of the 60s. You in Daytona?
Yes. At Daytona, I'm sorry, I can't tell you who car 48 is, but obviously another 911.
You really don't have to know who's behind you. The only thing that matters is who's in front.
Yeah.
But one race stands out.
The number one absolutely was the national championship race at Riverside in 1968. There was a tremendous amount of competition in it. Took the checkered flag, had tears in my eyes coming down the back straightaway. It was actually the most exciting race I'd ever driven in, the best one I can remember.
His accomplishments behind the wheel would help him reach another goal. He opened one of the first Porsche Audi dealers in Southern California as mentor to young employees like Chris.
Well, I tell you, he's extremely generous, very kind, a wonderful teacher, a tremendous mentor, both in business and personal life.
Trying to tell Alan Johnson's story in 4 minutes is impossible, so I'll let him tell you what he wants you to know.
You know, when I won a race, it wasn't because I, knocked somebody off the track. It's because I outdrove them. When I accomplished something in business, it's because I played it properly and did things correctly. I'd like people to remember me as a good employer, a good driver, and a good guy.
Alan, your achievements once again exceeded your goals. Up next, while other old cars go to junkyards, old Porsches go to museums. But first, they stop at CPR Classic. Southern California has long been a place to find an escape. Maybe that's why Porsche has been riding a wave of devotion since the late 60s here. But while other old cars from that time go to junkyards, old Porsches go to museums. But first, they stop at CPR Classic.
So we were founded in 1972 up in Manhattan Beach, and with my father and his brothers. And essentially the place started as just a Porsche service center. Because back then, of course, these cars weren't in need of restorations. They were just normal cars, And the company just evolved over the years into a restoration center. We started with 356s as they became more valuable and needed restorations, and then 911 started to come into play probably 20 years ago, and as the values have really increased over the last 10 years or so, it's just expanded the business miraculously. I mean, we tripled in size.
Growth is obvious as brother-in-laws Dylan Doherty and Stephen Culver give me a tour of their Porsche compound that now takes up several buildings at 2 facilities in Fallbrook, California.
We were at about maybe 20, 30 cars total capacity in 08, and now we're sitting at about, I think, 120 or so.
That's right, over 100 Porsches at varying stages of restoration, all in one place.
In fact, this one has floors now, but before you'd look in there and you'd be like, I can see the ground, oh my God.
Yeah. The reality is we set a standard for ourselves a long time ago, and cars that we've built have performed unbelievably well, and we've set records at auctions with our restoration cars.
But in just 2 minutes with these guys, you understand it's about way more than auction price. It's about the love of these vehicles and realizing that this passion is shared by others. A passion that families share between generations.
They're entrusting us with, the legacy of the car, with the nostalgia of the car. They trust us to take care of every single little bit of it. I mean, for example, there's a car that came in and it had this like Grateful Dead 70s, just very, very hippie style decal in the rear window, and we have not touched that. That rear window has been protected. So there's all these little things that we take, the steps that we take to really, make sure that these legacy cars are properly, venerated.
And this veneration takes time. Porsches that need a complete makeover may be worked on for over a year or more. It's like sending a kid to boarding school for a year.
Something like that, yeah.
Hopefully you get them back better than they were before.
Well, we guarantee you'll get them back, but we don't know how long, It just depends on the car,
Yeah, I mean, that car has over 1,000 hours of body work in it. And we're still not quite done.
There's a flat expectation of what we would consider a CPR certified restoration to be, and we can never deviate from that level of finish. It's what's made us.
Oh my.
So this is the showroom.
A step into the CPR sale room is, well, jaw-dropping.
There's an assortment of highly original cars in here that we've sourced, purchased.
But there was one car, not in the sales room, that belonged in a museum. A museum that had a track and long, winding roads. That car, the CPR ST.
This car is my pride and joy. Someone else's money paid for it, but this one was a collaboration between myself and the client, and it was an absolute blast to go through building the entire car with him.
A blast could be an accurate way to describe this car on an open road.
The whole concept, it was to build a really righteous, using correct period parts hot rod. And it culminated into a car that is as gorgeous or more gorgeous than any other custom car I've ever seen, and it drives unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. It culminated into a masterpiece.
Here, art is in the hands of the steering wheel holder.
It may look like the Mona Lisa, but there's more to it. There's more depth to it. This is the Mona Lisa that has that little bit of a smile, but the smile's not a smile, it's a smirk. And she wants to be taken out for a night on the town.
You guys should be proud.
Yeah, thank you.
And you'll weep when it leaves for good.
It used to be the background on my phone, but I had to change it just because I was afraid that, you know, having that as a leftover, I'd have to call the guy and be like, can you send me a picture?
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, I'm a little bit worried about that. So I already changed it. I'm already beginning the process of moving on. I think I'm in the second stage of grief.
For if you love it, let it go. And let it find back roads with no one watching and no posted speed limits. Luckily for the family at CPR Classic, at least they have the other 119 Porsches to take care of. If, as Porsche tells me, there is no substitute, then driving one is not a luxury. It is a necessity. At NOLA Motorsports Park's world-class 1.8-mile track, the necessity becomes a reality at Extreme Experience, where supercars aren't just for millionaires anymore, they're for me. Red seatbelt means fun. Enter the 911 GT3, the pinnacle of Porsche performance.
GT3 on track, GT3 on track.
50 years of perfecting the 911 have come to this.
It's a scalpel, simple as that. It's all about speed through the turns. It's not the fastest car compared to the Italians like a Lamborghini or Ferrari. It's a little slower in the straight line, but it's way faster in the turns, and it really rewards a driver just on basic skill, and it's super confidence inspiring. I love the sound. It's not what you would expect from a car, or at least a Porsche, but still fun nonetheless. Rolling, you're good to go. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? Keep going, you're going, you're good.
What is the proper reaction in a $140,000 car when one is having fun?
Very good. Woo! Unwind the wheel. Awesome.
Maybe woo is not commonplace in a Porsche, but it should be.
Woo!
For me, woo. There is no substitute, especially when taking turns at a speed you usually hit only on an interstate.
Relax those hands over there. I see those veins popping out. Rear wheel steering, which is kind of neat. So the wheels in the back will turn about 6 to 8 degrees as you're turning around a turn, and it'll just activate it. So it almost feels like it's gliding if you don't know what's there, but it basically allows you to stay on the throttle a lot longer. And to the right, nice and smooth. Hold her steady. She's a stick. Over to the right-hand side. Now switch it to the green on super large brakes, just like all the other Italians or major supercars. So stops on a dime.
Stopping is not what you want to do in this car.
What do you think about the car?
I like it. The handling is amazing.
All right.
But let's see what it really does. Let's see what it does with a real driver.
I'll try.
I'm going to put all that pressure on. Lucky for the GT3, there were a few more laps in the day. What's the main difference between you driving and me driving?
Practice.
Practice, seat time?
A lot of seat time, a lot of practice. It's like dancing. I'm a horrible dancer, but with the car, it's a whole different story.
I want to see how you dance.
You're gonna see that my inputs are exactly like I'm coaching you, really smooth. It's like a fine dance, nice and easy, like a waltz.
Dancing at 2G. I don't know of many waltzes that need a speedometer that goes up to 225 miles.
I never look at it, so.
Nice dance.
Very much, sir.
I think you get the mirror ball today. The 911 GT3 lives up to its pedigree. But there is one warning that Walter gave me about this Porsche that was so true.
The rest of your day is going to be boring, so just getting it out there now.
You have been warned.
Yo, Adrian.
I get asked all the time, what happens if my check engine light comes on? The check engine light in the newer cars are definitely more sensitive than the old ones. First thing to do, pay attention. Check, see if the car feels to you like it's running different. If it's not running different, don't panic. At your leisure, get it checked out. If you could stop somewhere and let them scan it for you with the scanner and tell you this is the code, they will advise you from that point. The scanner goes in and pulls out the codes that the computer put in when it saw a malfunction. Each one of the sensors has a parameter it has to stay in. When it gets right outside that parameter, the computer says something's wrong, we're gonna turn the light on. Next thing we do, we go in there, we punch it in, and it pulls up a code. That gives us a direction in which we're looking for. It could be a misfire in the engine, or it could be something as simple as you didn't tighten up the gas cap last time you put the gas in it. If the check engine light is not blinking and the car feels like it's running a little different, just very carefully get to some place where you can have it checked. If the check engine light is blinking, there is definitely a problem. It's telling you at that point, we definitely have a problem here. You need to get it attended to as fast as you can. Ignoring that check engine light is like forgetting your wife's birthday. You might not realize it right now, but you're gonna be paying for it for a long time.
The only thing that seems to go faster than these Porsches is this show. Until the next time, stay driven, my friends.